Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, I would like to just talk a little bit about what's been going on in the space recently and why I do think it really does make sense for crypto investors collectively to rebuke meme coins. Um, if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. But let's just go ahead and jump in because there's this thing, right, that's been going on for a long time in the cryptoverse. And you might be wondering, why am I talking about this? Why don't I talk more about just price action? The issue, right, for a channel like this, like mine, during periods like now, I mean, like price just hasn't really done anything. I mean, it's just been going sideways, right? So there's only so many ways I can say, right, the same thing over and over and over again. And, I just think it's more so a time to really talk about what the asset class values and to talk about ways in which I think it could be solved. Um, the whole meme coin craze, I think, honestly, I think went well beyond what most people ever thought it would. Back in the old days, back in like, in two cycles ago, right? Even back in like 2015, 2016. I mean, even in 2013, there were meme coins. Um, and they always kind of just would come and go, but they never really were like the main focal point of the asset class. Um, Instead, they were sort of like a distraction and a way for some people to lose some money because at the end of the day, they are zero sum games. It's a zero sum game, in my opinion. Um, and so it was they were always kind of there, but they never really uh, sort of defined the asset class. Whereas I feel like today, when you think of crypto, that's what most people think of. They just think of meme coins, and it's hard not to because a lot of the projects that are promoted the most are meme coin projects, right? They are. And, you know, one of the things that I think people should be aware of with meme coins is that essentially what happens is, opinion leaders, right, KOLs, that have large followings will get contacted by these people and they'll say, "Hey, we want to give you an allocation in this meme coin in exchange for promoting it, right? For tweeting about it, for making a YouTube video about it." Sometimes they'll just try to be sly and they'll just say, "Hey, can we give you this? No strings attached." Wink, wink, right? You don't have to do anything, but if you want to, obviously it's in your best interest. And that's kind of the idea that's what happens, right? So then obviously I say no to all these things, or really I just ignore them. Um, and then a few days later, what I'll see happen, I'll see a lot of influencers then promote them, right? Promote the very meme coins that I saw being sort of pushed to a lot of different influencers, right? And so they come out, right, and they'll call for altseason, they'll call for the next 100x gem, and then they'll do like this promotion for a meme coin. They'll dunk on Bitcoin dominance, right, because it's obviously in their interest to do so, and they'll talk about how great this meme coin is, and but in reality, like they're only doing so because they were given an allocation in the project to begin with. So it's cool for them, it's easy for them to just act all cool and tough, and say that it's for the culture. There's a great community, but in reality, they're just fleecing their followers out of their money, out of their Sats, right? Out of the Satoshi valuation of their portfolio by dumping on them as soon as the project's launched, and this process goes on and on and on and on. And there's this idea, this delusion in the meme coin space that these projects that get together, they spend all like a minute launching the meme coin. They spend far longer just figuring out who gets what. It's like they feel like they deserve all this money. They feel like they deserve to go, to cash in and to snipe the token right as it's launched. But in reality, like there's not really any hard work going in. It's just launching a meme coin that anyone could do, and trying to capitalize on it. And so this has become a cancer for the industry because it's just that same thing over and over and over again. And if you look at like the Sol Bitcoin chart, right? If you look at the Sol Bitcoin chart, some of the larger meme coin platforms that were launched that a lot of you guys I'm sure have spent some time on were launched right around here. So a lot of these meme coins have obviously been focused on they've been on Solana. And what's interesting, a lot of people thought that meme coins were the reason that Solana was so successful as measured from the lows. But you could argue that the very thing that people think is what made Sol Bitcoin go up might actually be the thing that caused it to stall out. Because a lot of those platforms were launched in early 2024, right? They migrated over to the ones that were seeing the biggest moves higher. And this is something that they capitalized on, right? And you can see that what's happened is that Sol Bitcoin has basically gone through this very long distribution phase. And, I'm sure there's going to be a pump again on Sol Bitcoin at some point. And a lot of people will say, oh, see, we told you so. Right now you can see it's nearing that low. But the point is, right, the point is with the meme coins is that regardless of any future pumps, right, regardless on dead cat bounces or whatever it might be, the point is that they're not actually good for the industry, right? And you could look at Solana and say that it was actually doing pretty well. It was doing pretty well. Like the Sol Bitcoin chart was doing really, really well. And then all these platforms launched and killed any momentum that Sol had on its Bitcoin pair. So again, like the people that really like Solana and that promote it and say how great it is, the problem is that the meme coins are actually killing the momentum of Solana on its Bitcoin pair. Because all that Sol that people are losing, that's just getting traded back for stable coins, right? Or traded out into something else. It's getting traded out. And so what happens is a lot of retail investors, they lose their soul, no pun intended, right? They lose their soul, maybe a little bit. They lose their soul trading these meme coins, and then the platforms then take it, or the influencers, right? Whoever, the insiders, right? They take it, part with it, and it causes Sol Bitcoin to just not really go anywhere because the selling pressure that wouldn't have otherwise existed is now there. Like imagine as an investor, if you hold Solana, if you had just held your Solana, the selling pressure for that Solana wouldn't be there, right? Because you probably would have continued holding it. But instead, what a lot of people do, right, is they trade their Solana. I want to say they trade their soul, right? But they trade their Solana, for a meme coin or something, and then that Solana that they trade, that ends up getting sold off eventually, right? Because the people that are profiting from this aren't going to hold on to it, right? I mean, they just want to cash out make as much money as they can. They don't want to hold on to it, so they just cash it out. So what would have otherwise not been sold had it just stuck in the investors' wallets, then there's all this sell pressure on a token that wouldn't have been there without all these launches of all those platforms. So this chart is not unfamiliar, right? It's not like Sol Bitcoin is the first chart that looks like this. We've talked about, you could argue ETH Bitcoin. It looks the same. It's just Sol Bitcoin is delayed by 2.5 years. But the same process is playing out on the ETH Bitcoin chart, where you had about an 89% drop and then a 400 to 500% rally. And then over here, you could argue it was sort of the NFT craze, right? Where people got distracted from ETH to NFTs, and then ETH Bitcoin then eventually stalled out and went down. And over here, it was ICOs, right? And it stalled out and went down, right? So what a lot of times happens is there can be a project that on its own is fine, but then people, because they're looking for ways to get rich quick, right? So rather than just hold the token and wait a few years, they want to look for ways to get rich quick. So they launch other things on the chain that then become distractions to the overall chain. And it causes that chain to stall out on its Bitcoin pair and then go back down. And I think that's what you're essentially seeing happen on the Sol Bitcoin chart, right? You're basically seeing it stall out because investors stopped focusing on the underlying chain, Solana, and they started focusing on the meme coins instead. And that's what's allowed this to happen. So, look, I think it's a difficult time in the cryptoverse. Obviously, sentiment is really bad, and that can easily happen when Bitcoin just going sideways for a couple of months. And it's been it's been going down a little bit, right? I mean, it's for the last 3 to 4 weeks, it's mainly just been trending down. Really, ever since the inauguration, I said January 20th would very likely be at least a local top because it's basically pricing in perfection, right? It's pricing in a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You're pricing in all this deregulation. You're pricing in, Gary Gensler resigning, and is pricing in perfection. But then instead of getting, we got some of it, right? We Gary Gensler obviously resigned, but there's a lot of it. I mean, we still haven't gotten the reserve, the strategic Bitcoin reserve. There's been obviously talk about it being a strategic crypto reserve. We normally lose our way in the post-halving year. And you also have to wonder, as far as it relates to deregulation, I'm all about free markets, but I also think the free market will eventually punish the meme coin market. I don't know how long it's going to take. And, to some degree, it's already been happening over the last few weeks. A lot of these meme coins are down 80% just in the last few weeks. I just think that it's making the industry focus on things that are not important at all and have no bearing in the future of the cryptoverse, right? They don't. And, again, it's easy to paint me out to be the bad guy when I talk about meme coins in sort of a generalized fashion, because there's obviously a lot of people that hold meme coins are like, well, you're not talking about my meme coin, right? But the issue is that at the end of the day, they don't really inherently provide any value. We can pretend, right? We can pretend that they have great communities and all that stuff, but in reality, all the communities are the same, right? I mean, basically, the people buying that meme coin are usually the same people that are buying that meme coin over there. And it just, again, it used to be sort of more of an, I don't even want to say innocent, because I don't think it's ever truly been innocent, but it used to be more of like a, it was easier to ignore. It's like, all right, well, there's a couple of meme coins that people are talking about, and they're having fun, so whatever. Now it's basically everything, right? Everything sort of in the middle has just completely deteriorated. And one of the ways you can see this is that a large reason that the market has gone up for the last few years is because Bitcoin has gone up, right? I mean, total market cap, the main contribution to it going up is Bitcoin. Ethereum is still below 3K, right? I mean, it's nowhere even close to all-time highs. A lot of altcoins are well below their all-time highs. And if you look at like the advanced decline index for the top 100 cryptocurrencies, I'll just scroll down so you can see the description and usage if you want to pause the video and read it. It's been in a downtrend since 2021, right? It's just been a downtrend. So the market is still in this phase of the cycle, right? So you can see it also topped at the 2017 peak, and it went down even after the bull market began, but it didn't bottom until a few months after QT ended, quantitative tightening ended. It bottomed a few months after that. And so the main reason the cryptoverse was going up back over here was just because of Bitcoin, just like today, or just like over the last couple of years. The main reason it's gone up is because of Bitcoin. Doesn't mean that alts can't go with it. Many of them have to some degree, but they bled on their Bitcoin pairs. And so what you see is an industry where if you weren't Bitcoin heavy for the last few years, a lot of people just kind of got left behind because they were knee deep in sort of the middle of the road alts, right? Below Bitcoin, but above the meme coin market. Or they were gambling in the meme coin market and losing a lot of money. Now, I'm sure some people made some money, but again, it is a zero-sum game. The people that tend to make the most money on meme coins are the people who are loudest about them. They tend to have large followings. They tend to have an edge on making money in meme coins because they have allocations. I put out a tweet earlier, I'm like, meme coin influencers don't have alpha. They have allocations, and that's why they make it look so easy. They're being given these tokens for nothing except for their, for publicity. And so that's how they make their money. Um, and I just think that more people should be aware of this. Like, this is what's happening. And obviously, over the last few weeks, I've gotten louder about it, especially on Twitter. Um, it's not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing for the industry, and I don't know what needs to happen for us to refocus. I don't know what needs to happen. Um, if usually what happens when markets get like this is the market drops, right? You get corrections, right? If you look at 2017, we had several 30 to 40% corrections in that cycle, and a lot of times it allowed the market to sort of regroup and refocus. Um, there are plenty of these larger corrections, right? And so when things get a little too frothy, those corrections help to get us back on course, right? It reminds us of what's important. And it's not the meme coins, right? It's not. And I think that's, that might be what ends up happening, right? Maybe that is how it plays out, where there's just a correction. And you could already argue where we've been in one, right? I mean, we've been in a correction, and you could argue that there's some element of time-based capitulation. Remember, Bitcoin doesn't really need a reason to go up, it needs a reason to go down. So as long as it doesn't have that reason, it continues to hold up okay. But at this point, right, it's been about a 17% drop or so. Not really a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. If it did end up getting like a 30% drop, that would basically take Bitcoin to the 2024 high, which is actually coincidentally where the drop in early 2017 took Bitcoin, right? It took it to the 2016 high. The 2017 drop took it to the 2016 high. So I would at least be aware of that outcome. There are chart patterns as well where you could see it back test this level as well. Hopefully that doesn't happen, right? If that were to happen, it'd be a lot worse, because then you're talking about going back into the 60s. So, if you thought meme coins got hit on these weekly candles, imagine what they would look like if you actually got a big drop. Which is why, as I've said, like, being Bitcoin heavy has made a lot more sense, because I mean, it still gives you exposure in case Bitcoin just goes up and we get a normal right translated cycle. But if we get a drop back to 75K or something, it won't be as bad as the altcoin market, and especially the meme coins. So again, I don't really know how the asset class can sort of get past this. Like, it seems like something has to give, right? Like, at the end of the day, a lot of people in crypto don't want regulation, right? They want free markets. They want to just do what they want to do. And I'm not here to argue against that. I'm just saying that if you don't have regulation, the free market will likely eventually regulate it for you by showcasing which things don't actually provide value. Again, in the short term, that's not necessarily true, right? In the short term, markets can be irrational. But as time goes on, the free market should punish the projects that provide no value. And they should go asymptotically to zero against Bitcoin. That's the way the market works. You don't need regulations for the free market to eventually figure it out. With a lot of the more recent high-profile rug pulls, I think it's becoming a bit more obvious to people what is happening. The people that are focusing on it. And I was thinking like, a lot of exchanges reward meme coins, right? They're very quick to list meme coins. They're very quick to promote them, to talk about them. And the reason is because they want to drive traffic to the exchange, because that's the way they make money, on trading fees. And they don't care if the people trading are losing money, because they're going to get rich either way, right? They're going to make money on trading fees. It doesn't really matter if they launch a coin that all their users lose money on, because they're going to make money. So they're incentivized to launch meme coins. those are the projects that are rewarded. Now, if you actually want to try to launch something in crypto in a legit fashion, you're not rewarded. For the last several years, you've had to worry about the SEC knocking on your door and saying this is a security, an unregistered security. We might be moving away from that now with the new administration, so maybe more people will be incentivized to build. But also, the people that do go down that route are also not rewarded because they end up having to pay these like huge listing fees to a lot of exchanges just for the ability to get listed, right? And so people can actually buy that token on the exchange, whereas a lot of the meme coins are ultimately listed free of charge. So the industry as a whole rewards meme coins and does not reward basically anything else. That you, at least, I mean, obviously Bitcoin, right? I mean, Bitcoin is the reason why we're here. Without Bitcoin, I don't think anything else would do well. If Bitcoin fails, I think the entire industry fails. Everything in the industry could fail but Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could still succeed. My point, though, is that the only way to make the industry change their ways and to focus on what matters is if you focus on what matters, right? If retail investors rebuke meme coins and say, enough is enough, we're tired of getting fleeced, we're tired of letting these influencers just, pretend like they have alpha when they're really just dumping on us. If investors can wake up and smell the roses and they don't chase the meme coins, then the exchanges are no longer incentivized to launch them and to promote them, right? So at the end of the day, it seems like something that, you're not going to really convince exchanges to change their ways if that's the way they're going to make the most amount of money. The only way that the industry can learn is if retail learns that that's not where the value is. And I fear that the only way that retail can learn that is if the free market punishes them over and over and over again. And at some point, they'll wake up and realize what's going on. And at that point, then collectively, the industry, I think, should rebuke the meme coin market and not chase them at all. Let the influencers promoting them lose relevance and ignore it. And that's how the industry can ultimately get back on track. Again, Bitcoin dominance right now is at 61%. Back in 2021 and 2022, when I was calling for it to go to 60%, I would have assumed, honestly, that by the time it was at 60%, people would learn their lessons with these meme coins and stuff. I would have assumed that. I was wrong, right? I was wrong. Here we are at 61% dominance, and people are still making all the same mistakes they made at 40% dominance. Same mistakes happening. So, we have the usual suspects that are calling for alt season. And I'm not saying there won't ever be one. I'm just saying that it's easy to be an influencer and call for alt season because that's what people want to hear. And a lot of them call for it nonstop over and over and over again. But we have not had an alt season since 2021, right? Since early 2021, everything since then has not been an alt season. So if you follow someone that's been calling for alt season at any point over the last 3.5 years, they've been wrong. Again, it's easy to call for it because that's what people want to hear. But that's not what's actually happened, right? What's actually happened is that alts, if you look at like others Bitcoin, right? They've just been bleeding for so long, right? There's so many of these, gurus who call for like the meme coin super cycle and whatnot. But this has just been a massive bear market for altcoins on their Bitcoin pairs. Now, obviously, Bitcoin's bear market ended in 2022, right? It ended in 2022. Everyone knows the chart. But alts, the bear market for altcoins on their Bitcoin pairs never actually ended, right? This chart was topped in January 2022, right? The bear market for alt Bitcoin pairs never actually ended. This is all part of the same cycle. I feel like a lot of people think it's not. It's like a new cycle, but it's not if you look at alt Bitcoin pairs. It's all part of the same bear market for altcoins against Bitcoin. I'm surprised it's gone on for as long as it has, honestly. Normally in post-halving years, you see all Bitcoin pairs pick up a little bit. But, given the froth that we have, I guess it's not that surprising, right? I guess it's not that surprising. And really, really considering that quantitative tightening has continued, it's not surprising as well, right? I mean, until QT ends, you can argue that all Bitcoin pairs don't necessarily have to really start doing well. Um, but it might be due to the fact that, investors have been so stubborn for so long with these things. It's probably one of the reasons why quantitative tightening has had to go on for a lot longer than people were hoping it would, is because it's just taking a lot of people a lot longer time, a much longer time this cycle to get the memo than it did last cycle. Right? Last cycle it only took about a year and a half. This cycle, it's been what, over 3 years now, and people are still very slow to get to get that memo. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I know I've been focusing on it a lot recently, not only on YouTube but on Twitter. But I do think it is important to sort of stand up for this stuff and to say, like, look, I know there's gonna be people that are mad and say that their meme coin is great, but in reality, I think they're not, and I think that they are a burden to the industry, and the industry would be a lot better off if they did not exist. The culture that they bring is not a good culture. And furthermore, if the people, one of the main arguments for meme coins is that, well, they bring new people to the space. If you bring people to the space and immediately rug them, they're not going to stay. Do you want proof? I mean, I've showed this chart before. If you look at the social risk, this is proof. Look at the last 2 cycles in post-halving years. Social risk went up a lot. Look at this cycle. It can't go up, right? I mean, it keeps staying down here because all the new investors that come back to the Cryptoverse just get fleeced on all these meme coin rug pulls that these influencers are promoting. If you were new to crypto, like if you hadn't been in 2021 and 2022, like if you just got here for the first time and you logged on to Twitter, X, and YouTube, and all you're presented with is all this, like, oh, president of Argentina or whoever, like these people are launching meme coins, they're just going to zero almost instantly. Do you want to stick around for that, right? Is that really something you want to spend your time on? Or would you rather spend time living life and hanging out with your family and your friends? Do you really want to just sit here and watch grifters and influencers get rich rugging meme coins over and over and over again? No. So when you come and you lose your money, you leave, right? Because that's what people keep pouring their money into meme coins. In prior cycles, people would actually invest in other things, and those projects would do well over a much longer period of time. But today, that's not the focus. Today, it's all about how do you get rich now. New people put their money into these meme coins that basically go to zero overnight, and then they leave. At least before they had a chance to do well by buying other stuff. Today, it's not like that. They come and they lose their money basically on a weekend, and that's that. And then you basically look at the chart and you're like, well, social risk is still way down here, and it truly never went back up. And if you look at YouTube views to a lot of different crypto YouTube channels, you can see that, I mean, we're still averaging around 1 million collectively to these crypto YouTube channels. If you compare that to 2021, at points we were averaging like 3 to 4 million, right? And this entire cycle, we've only ever seen a couple of spikes to like 2 million. People keep dreaming of 2021, but the thing that's kind of different that happened, I think, in 2021 is, and also in 2016 is the industry focused more on building, and then people came, and then this cycle we've been more focused on when are the people going to come rather than actually building. So whenever some people do come, they don't actually stick around, which leads to this, like, this sort of zombie bull market where basically Bitcoin is one of the only things going up. And there's a few altcoins that go up here and there, but the issue with a lot of the altcoins that go up is, like, the altcoins that are going up now are very different than the altcoins that went up in 2024, which are very different than the altcoins that went up in 2023. So there's this like rotation of which altcoins are actually doing well. But if you look collectively at the entire industry, they're going down, right? I mean, yes, there's some that go up at certain times, but collectively they're going down. That's the way the industry tricks you, right? Is by thinking like, oh, well, there's this one here and that one over there that's doing well. Therefore, Bitcoin dominance, why care about that? At any given time, there's always something, right, outpouring Bitcoin on a short enough time period. But over a longer time period, the trend has been clear for a long time for anyone who's cared to look, right? For anyone who's cared to look, it's been there for a long time. But anyways, guys, those are my thoughts. I mean, I want to make more price videos and talk about price action and get some volatility. I think it would really be good for the cryptoverse if we could get some volatility in either direction, really. You could argue that if there was a breakout to all-time highs, that could actually go a long way in sort of getting rid of some of the negative sentiment and maybe getting people to focus on what matters again. But sometimes you just have to get corrections and you have to get painful drops when people don't want it, just to get the cryptoverse back on track. So sometimes the free market, if you go the path of deregulation, which is the path we've gone on, it doesn't mean that the problems aren't there. It just means now the free market has to solve the problem, and I think that's what's happening, right? I think the free market is solving the problem, and I hope it solves it once and for all, and that the industry can get back on track. Anyways, guys, those are my thoughts. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.